So Stu, what should someone do to prepare their business before they go to sell it? Because that can be a lot of work.
Well, there's no question about it. And, a sad fact is that although I think it's fair to say that every single day, a business, a small business somewhere in America comes on the market, is available for another person to buy. But most of them are never going to sell because they aren't properly prepared. So your question couldn't be more important to any business owner. I think the first reason is simply that the owner needs to be very clear as they're preparing their business, be clear in their own mind, and be willing to convey to a buyer why this business is for sale and how it's going to benefit the buyer. So, for example, a lot of businesses, if the owner can get their ego out of the way, might recognize they've done so well managing their business that the business has gotten beyond their own skill set for them to be able to properly manage the next stages of growth and so on and so forth. So if an owner can get over themselves and demonstrate to another buyer why they need someone to take it on, that would be a benefit to the buyer. And the other simply, perhaps could be that, hey, I want to retire, and the business has enabled me to do so. But being able to be able to share that with a buyer, so the buyer really understands a motive that you have as a seller to sell that benefits the buyer.
Yeah.
So it's got to be a two-way street.
Absolutely. And then I think what people forget is, what does that mean? I mean, preparing, we all understand the concept of preparing, but when you prepare a business, what's the key there?
Right. Well, another certainly, once we get clear on what it is, certainly you got to go straight to the financials, because at the end of the day, it is all about about the money. Being able to first, besides talking about the price and so on and so forth, more importantly, being able to look at the financials of any business. And I think you've got a screenshot here in terms of what it is we're looking for. But certainly the financials have to be able to be easily understood by a buyer, so that they're looking at it and it's easy to understand. And it may take some preparation to get that done. Over the years, I've met a lot of business owners who they understood their financials, but nobody else could. So that we needed to get it in order. But also, stuff happens, and businesses get sued and so on and so forth. So in addition to being able to share easily understood financials, if you've got some pending lawsuits, liens, whatever it might be, what is your plan for resolving them? Let it out up front, because at the end of the day, in every business transaction, there's going to be a due diligence period. All this stuff is going to come up anyway. Better to put it out there right at the very beginning.
Yeah, so it's always important for you to see what your own books look like. And if I think we all know if we have messy accounting here and there.
People do.
And so to be fair with yourself and to say, hey, maybe I would like to meet with this broker, but maybe I should really meet with my CPA first and say, hey, how hard is it for you to clean my stuff up, or talk to my bookkeeper and make sure that they have all your expenses in the right bucket, so that when you sit down, you have the 3 years tax return, you have a current year profit loss, and you have a current year balance sheet. That's always what we recommend. We want to see that so we can give you the best advice possible.
Absolutely right. Very good point. Human capital, the biggest asset any business has got are all the people who work there. But being able to show it, being able to demonstrate that the business is going to do just fine with the owner no longer there. So being able to show the charge, show your management, your leadership team, whatever you want to phrase it, and what are their qualifications? How did they happen to end up in that leadership position? Certainly the number of employees you've got, the years with the business, what are their various and sundry roles. Employees are a key part of any transaction, and certainly preparing down the road for the transition. How are you going to inform the employees? Should we benefit some of the key employees financially for the transition or whatever? But being invested in the human capital of the business is key, and the buyer would want to be able to understand all of this well prior to meeting with any of the employees.
Yeah, if you've treated your people well, if you've
Yeah.
treated your people well as an owner, you really don't have a lot of concern here. It's treating people well, taking care of people. But if you have a large organization and you build an org chart and this person reports to that person, you really need to understand your own organizational chart before you try to sell your business. Sometimes business owners are so busy, they don't even know what job functions are rolling to which people. So it's really important for you just to pause, to truly understand how your business is working, especially if it's a larger business, so that you can articulate that to the buyer, because certainly the buyer is just absolutely going to ask those questions. And some people invest in businesses because they don't really want to go into it every day. They invest in the operating companies, but they want to make sure that that has a strong leadership and management team in place so that they can put their CEO tweaks on it. So it's important that you understand how people work, but at the end of the day, if you've treated them well, it usually works well.
Absolutely right.
And then looks matter, right? First impressions too. Tell us about that.
Well, I always think somebody's always watching us, always, and certainly because of the various opportunities people have to look at us online, we have no idea that someone is looking at our website and they are making a judgment. Are these people are they really putting their best foot forward at all time? So consequently, not only does your website need to look current, meaning that it's just easy to navigate, that it's got good, useful information on it, that's useful to the person who is looking at the website. And again, it's easy to navigate, really important. But that there aren't any obvious misspellings somewhere in the website, that you're being careful. And certainly if you've got a blog or whatever, any kind of social media type, whatever, it better be up to date. The other day I was looking at a company and they happened to have a blog. I thought, oh, this will be interesting. The last entry on their blog was 2018, and they hadn't updated it, but it was right there still on. They weren't taking care of little things, and little things are very big things. Yep. How we do one thing is how we do everything else. So, so therefore, really taking a close look. Also, your logo. I think it's not a bad idea to consider changing your logo periodically, only to say to your customers, you're not the same company today that you were several years ago. Right. That you're moving on with the times. That you're still making yourself as good and viable as possible, and you're demonstrating that in a simple way with your logo or your brochures, however, whatever media you're using. It needs to look fresh, it needs to be current, it needs to be useful to a buyer.
Yeah, your brand identity, it's important, and that can even matriculate over to the way that your physical space looks. If you operate a business, I can tell you this: if I go into a business and there's boxes and boxes of old things, and that's never been cleaned up and organized, that is saying something to the buyer. When the buyer reaches the phase in the cycle that they actually want to come and physically see what they may buy, those are unspoken things that buyers say, well, if that's a mess, I wonder if their financial books are a mess. I wonder if their relationships and their employees are a mess. A clean business always presents better. It's just like showing a home, right? You're not showing a home that's ugly, right?
Absolutely right.
And then what I find is just, go ahead, Stu.
No, I was just going to say, I was just agreeing with you. I think you're totally correct.
And then some questions that I think are really important when we're approaching cleaning up is that money flows in and out of businesses very quickly, and it's important to understand how the money flows to the owner, because the buyer, the best way to sell your business is to be able to get in the mindset of a buyer. And so these are some things that you can take away as you're seeing this video now. Feel free to take a screen grab, pause the video, take a look. Are you getting paid as the owner on a W-2 income? Are you getting paid 1099? Maybe you pay 1099s. Do you take bonuses? Do you put things in a 401k? Do you use a safe harbor? Do you match? Do you take draws? Do you have a truck? Do you pay gas? All the things that you do, ultimately, we forget little things inside of our businesses that we use, that if someone else is going to get behind the wheel and drive that business, they're going to have those questions of how money is flowing to your personal household, or flowing to your tax return, or flowing to the state tax return. So it's just important to start getting your mind in that gear so that you can answer some of these questions.
No question about it. And just a final note that I would add to this, as you're thinking about your preparation, how you're preparing your business, I think it's a good idea to understand what your questions would be for any would-be buyer. Why would they want to be buying your business? Who are they? Concerns you may have as to either who this person is or whatever. What questions will you have? What concerns might you have? Whatever, for the buyer. But most importantly, be prepared. So preparing, be prepared. That's what the Boy Scouts motto was, right? Still is.
Yeah,
Be
that's right.
prepared. Always one of the great pieces of advice we'll always get. Always be prepared.
Always be prepared. And this is just a summary of what a process could look like. We do this every day. We're very good at explaining it. We're very good at facilitating it. And so this is just a summary of what we do, taking you from protecting the information behind your business all the way through a listing agreement, what we will do, what we will ask you to do for us. Of course, we're very good at marketing businesses confidentially. It sounds like an oxymoron, but we can market the businesses confidentially. We know how to do that and qualify buyers and walk them through this confidential process to protect the integrity of your business that you've worked so hard to build, but also to impart that goodwill to the buyer. And it's very, very important that you understand that we do this. We know how to facilitate it. We take it all the way to closing, and then ultimately help transition the goodwill from one buyer to another. But Stu does this all the time. He's got a tremendous amount of background in this, and we help people sell their business. So Stu, if people have questions, what's the best way for them to reach out to you?
On the screen, my phone, I prefer the phone, 843-209-0784. But Stu Kimball at gmail.com is a great way to go. STUKIMBALL at gmail.com.
Well, Stu, thank you for your time. Thank you for professionalism. Please give Stu a call if you have any questions about if it's time to sell. Maybe you want to buy a business. He can help you with that. We do both sides of the transaction. We're very good at making sure that you have a smooth process. Thank you for your time. My name is David C. I'm broker in charge. And thanks, Stu, for joining me and sharing.
Thank you, David. Thank you, David.